This conference will now be recorded.
Call the January 9th, 2023. Happy New Year, everybody. Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please, Susie.
Sure. Leroy Bolt.
Here.
Dale Schmidt.
Here.
Tracy Fluke.
Here.
Annette Ovinger.
Here.
Linda Monson.
Here.
Kyle Jago.
Here.
Jessica Atkinson.
Here. Okay, we can stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And fourth, action on the agenda. I would welcome a motion to approve the agenda as shown. Anybody have any changes?
I move we accept it as proposed. I'll second it. Whatever.
Moved by Kyle, second by Dale. Susie, do you want to set up the table?
No, I can grab right there.
Just say you can come up here. There's plenty of room. Move the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, action on the minutes from the November 14, 2022 meeting.
It's me again. Page 5, packet 5, page 3. Okay. Packet 5, page 3 now. Again, it's directions. It's always directions. The second paragraph where it starts with Element Way is also planned for full construction in 2023. This section extends east from Element Building number 3 to Oneida Street. I don't understand. This is west and east, and the lake is there, and Holmgren's here.
It should be, it
Should
should,
west.
instead of east, it should say west.
West, okay. Okay, that's what I thought. Either that or I'd say Holmgren because something didn't work. Okay, so it extends west from Element Building to Oneida Street. Thank you.
That same page, the next paragraph at the end of where it says discussion followed with Fluke requesting consideration be given to including Cheryl's. Cheryl's is spelled wrong. It's hard to remember how to spell it. If you remember arrows, that's S-H and then the word arrows, A-R-R-O-W-S. That's an easy way to remember it.
Makes perfect sense.
I'm sure it didn't come up on spell check either.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else any other questions on that? Anybody else? And I welcome a motion to approve the minutes with those corrections.
Almost to approve.
Dale?
Second.
Second by Leroy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Comments from the public? I don't think we have any, but I will go through the reasons really quick. Must be items. Must be limited to items on the agenda. Must state name and address. Limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the items. Personnel issues cannot be discussed in our individual's name. The board is not able to take action at this meeting. Any comments from the public? Gary, you got anything? The public? No? Okay, reports. We did change the agenda. It's just a little different. The recommendation of Dale, good call on that.
Well, I just want to add something today because I don't know if I said it last time. We did, I felt it was important to do that. So if they had something important, not to be important, but if they see something on the agenda that's important, I would hope they'd want to stick around.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
They meaning public safety, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
no public works.
Very important.
Yes.
Very.
All right, so reports and updates. Letter A is Ashwaubenon Public Safety Department, and Brian's here today. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, doing a little teamwork. We had some scheduling conflicts, so housekeeping item looks like we have some vests that are for sale. Apparently the VIPs purchased some vests that were ANSI compliant to work out on the streets and highways. So they have some that are sale. It looks like they have 24 large, extra large, and 8 small mediums. They'll be on sale up in records for $5 each. Yeah. So if you want one of those for traffic parking, private option, you can use that. I have some information on some traffic crashes. Before I get to that, I will say I don't have a full report. Commander Murphy will have one for you next month, it sounds like. But he wanted me to let you know that traffic citation warnings are all continue to be up. 4WIs are up as well. And traffic crashes are trending down. With that, we had some traffic crashes in December. Doesn't sound like there was a meeting then. So December 7th, there was a traffic crash, hit and run versus a pedestrian on a scooter. This looks like it was between IHOP and the Range Bank, where a pedestrian was going southbound, kind of on the sidewalk there. A vehicle was exiting and struck the pedestrian and scooter. No injuries to the pedestrian, but the scooter didn't make it. We also had another car versus pedestrian in that same location, just further in that roadway area between IHOP and the bank. Vehicle was turning, leaving the mall area, headed towards Oneida. And the pedestrian was coming across, looks like, from the bank area over like towards IHOP, and they were struck there in the mall parking lot with only minor injuries. This occurred on the 12th at about 5:16 p.m., so it's probably a little dark in that area. I don't know the lighting of that specifically offhand. I'm assuming in the mall area it's probably fairly well lit in that area, but we got that. And then we had a couple crashes on the 4th where it was kind of wet and rainy. We had a vehicle versus pedestrian, Oneida and Hanson. It looks like from this one, someone was exiting the Goodwill parking lot and going to exit the parking lot and turn north on Oneida. There was a pedestrian that was in the median area. Not sure why they were in that area, but were struck in the median. Sounds like the pedestrian had some facial injuries that were somewhat severe, some broken teeth. No, doesn't look like any citations were issued in that one. That was handled at about 11 o'clock in the morning. And then we had another one, 4:50 in the afternoon, Oneida and Willard, where a person was crossing the pedestrian crosswalk. Person was going, looks like, eastbound on Willard, going to turn southbound on Oneida Street. They had the green light, and there was someone in the crosswalk that was struck. It just says possible injuries, so there was no apparent injury to the officer. And again, I do not believe any citations were issued on this one. It was a very slow moving accident. If I had to guess, I'm guessing they were looking at traffic and not paying attention to the pedestrian in the crosswalk. They struck them. So that is what I have for accidents from December and January. I think that's all I have for public safety.
What took place last week Wednesday out on Packer-Line 172?
Last week Wednesday, Packer-Line 172. I know there was a traffic stop in that area. Was there an accident, or are you talking about?
I don't know. A friend of mine that was working at Bellin, on Comanche there, texted.
There's probably a lot of activity. I think what that was is they attempted a traffic stop on the car. There were several people in that car that had warrants, and one of them ran. So we chased them through the backyards. We got the canine out, and the canine was able to apprehend that suspect. I think that's probably what you're referring to, because there was a lot of officers in that area.
There was.
Yeah.
We've been through this a few times, but the scooter one, the scooter was on the sidewalk.
Scooter was on the side.
Who has does he still have the right of way even though he's on a scooter? Because
Yeah, it's, if he's on anytime you go through and across an intersection, you're supposed to be walking.
yeah,
For that very reason, right? Because there's not enough time for a car to react by the time they see him. So could he or she been issued a citation from
okay.
we probably just try to educate
Well, that's why I asked you. Sometimes we get those questions.
Yeah.
Where can I operate my scooter? And
Yeah, same thing, even on the roadway, you go to the crosswalk, you ride a bike, everyone knows you should be walking a bike, riding a bike. It doesn't always happen.
Thanks.
So is it legal? I know in Green Bay it's not legal to ride a scooter on the sidewalk. Is it legal to ride a scooter on the sidewalk in Ashwaubenon?
Yeah, they're not supposed, I'd have to look at it specifically, I don't believe it is. Yeah.
So they should have been in the traffic lane,
Yeah,
same direction
those
as traffic.
scooters are supposed to be in the same direction. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of electric scooters as well, they go pretty fast, so.
Yeah.
But most people on the scooters are younger and they just tend to be on the sidewalks.
Even when you mentioned, if I heard this correctly, the one where somebody was crossing, but the driver had the green light of the automobile.
Well, it depends. I mean, depending on which way they were going. I mean, even if you have a green light, you still have there could still be the walking
Pedestrians,
signals. So
sure. Okay.
It's still the driver's obligation to make sure that it's safe to go.
For that pedestrian.
Yeah,
Okay, which makes sense.
Yeah, because then they could have been turning, so both of them could have had the green light.
exactly.
Yeah. And then if the car hit them, the pedestrian, then the motor vehicle driver could be cited for failure to yield, correct?
Absolutely,
Because
yeah.
the pedestrian was doing what they should have been doing.
And that's why I looked to see if there was a citation issue. It doesn't look like there was, but there could have been. Absolutely.
Well, even the median one, so the gentleman by Goodwill or person was walking in the median, and your comment was, why are they even in there? But when you think of this crossings on Oneida Street, how far that person would have to walk to get to an intersection that has any kind of control, you see them all the time going across that median, because
Yeah,
otherwise they have to walk blocks and blocks.
I don't doubt it. It's probably quite a ways, but
Yeah.
the reason for that is for safety.
I know.
People just aren't, with 4 lanes of traffic going through there, they're simply not looking in the median for people.
Right, I
Right.
agree. Yeah, that's why it's really unsafe.
Exactly.
But yeah, but they're gonna do it, unfortunately,
course.
you know, 'cause they don't wanna walk all the way up to Hanson or all the way down to.
That's what we've talked about, that it's gonna be interesting once Bellin is done and they come around under
Yeah,
41 and try to cross back and forth.
yeah,
That section of Oneida Street, I think, is 6 lanes in both directions. So 3
Yeah,
lanes
you're
north,
probably right.
3 lanes south, and then the center lane, the median is actually a quit lane, so
yeah.
free access, left turn lane.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
So you're
There's
looking
quite a bit
at
of traffic there.
You're looking at people coming at you, going southbound. And once you see that's clear, you're going across and then looking to see if you can cross the other direction. You just can't see people.
Yeah. It's hard enough to get in that median, just
Exactly.
watching for cars, let alone
Right.
for a person,
And if you're a pedestrian, you have to wait so long
Yeah.
for it to clear, you're
Yeah.
just gonna go and think,
Right.
I'll be all right.
Exactly. Hope for the best, hope no one goes through.
You're in the car and you're in Goodwill, you have to wait a long time.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Right.
Yeah,
Probably one of the worst turnouts on Oneida Street that I know of is Goodwill.
Right.
I've been on the block.
Traffic on northbound right there is coming off the highway,
Yep, that's
and,
fine.
Well, yeah.
They're not going 30 miles an hour, they're, they're going 40 miles.
Yeah, I mean, they got to slow down coming out up the off ramp there
Yeah.
and go across, but yeah, they're probably, but, to Joel's point, it is 6 lanes of traffic. And you got in the middle there, so.
yeah.
Okay.
Was there a crash? I heard there was a crash on Oneida and Hanson, or is that like a pedestrian got hit this
Yeah, that's the
past
one I
weekend
went,
or something?
that's the one I went over.
Okay.
I think that
It was originally reported at the intersection, but it was actually just in front of it.
Oh, it was, okay. Okay.
For Green Bay crime reports.
Yeah, it does have the
That's what I
original.
saw, and I'm like,
It's the
why is
most
Green Bay
accurate.
doing it? Yeah. I'm
It
like,
does have the original location.
Okay. All right, I just want to, okay. So I see a lot more pedestrians there now, and a lot of them crossing against the lights, with dark bows, and I'm like, and the cars are on that intersection so bad. And then you throw a pedestrian there doing whatever, I'm just waiting for it.
I can't get over how many people still walk with traffic.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Every time I see them, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, so did you, cars coming up behind you?
And then I see bicycles biking towards me. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard.
Yeah.
How many times do we have to send out reminders?
Yeah, we talk about that all the time, how to educate the public or keep them educated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not easy.
No. All right, anything else, Chief?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Public Works, Brian, you're up next.
Alrighty, so we're gonna go through my staff report. Pedestrian ramp at Hanson and Broadway, really no updates there. That's gonna kind of somewhat piggyback the Ashwaubenon Bridge / Alvin Station trail going in. Stencils on Cormier, looking to review the conditions of those after the winter season here. Holmgren pedestrian signage that was installed partially last week, got finished up actually today. Skew Railroad Crossing sign, it said in my report here that is hopefully going to be installed by the end of January. Lee had stated that they are actually up currently, so I need to get out and just field verify, but assuming those are also up.
They're up.
They are up, so.
On both areas of Parkview?
Correct. Should be.
Parkview and Holmgren, right?
Parkview and Holmgren,
Yeah.
Yes, it would be, yep. Design of Element and Morris, currently it's probably at about 90% design. Plan is to advertise January 27th and February 3rd. Bids to be open February 15th. Sent to Village Board for consideration on the 28th. Attached in your packet, you can see the preliminary cross sections of both Element and Morris. Last item that we have, snow removal on sidewalk and trails. I would say all in all, it's been going fair. There's been some limitations with just the equipment that we have, finding out that it's not as agile as what we would think or what we would like. We did have one additional request from a resident that lives west of Packland to remove the snow, actually on the Packland Trail. There is portions of that is actually in Hobart also. That would be somewhat of a challenging one because the county, a lot of times there's a lot of drifting that blows across Packland, and a lot of times they wing it back, so there's quite a bit of snow up there at times. And the only other thing I would have is the snow removal on the trail is kind of a secondary task for us. So especially like around the holidays, we were plowing pretty much every day, a lot of vacation stuff like that. So it's just a brief reminder that it's definitely a secondary task. So other than that, I really don't have a ton. I did go out based on Tracy had sent in a concern about how close we were able to get to push buttons and stuff like that. So there is actually 20 locations throughout the village that we remove snow off from either a sidewalk or a trail, and there's actually push buttons. So I went out and looked at those. A good portion of them actually don't even have a paved surface going up to them. Not only that, some of the areas we do plow with the truck, so actually turning and getting up by the push buttons, you're probably going to be tearing out more sod than you will be actually plowing snow. So with that, I don't know if you want me to cover anything else or any questions, comments, concerns.
Well, I think a lot of the stuff you mentioned were things that we discussed when we initially talked about. You know, we knew it was going to take time, so the streets have to come first, so that takes time. We knew that the equipment was going to be a challenge, so we viewed this as, well, the first year we're going to figure it out and then figure out how to change it and tweak it. So from your standpoint, how is this going?
I would say it's going, fairly good. I mean, it's not like anybody's come in and said, we got to stop this because it's not working. It's just, I mean, all in all, it's obviously adding more stress, so we're just kind of having to reprioritize stuff, but it's not like it's not possible.
So I guess that was my concern. From your standpoint, the logistics of getting this done, so it's not overly burdensome.
No, it's doable.
It matters, I think, more about what the expectations are for the quality of clearing activity. So I think part of the struggle that Brian mentioned is the type of equipment that we have. So prior to this year, we were primarily just dealing with sidewalks. So we have this machine called the Trackless, which is an articulated tractor with a very distinct blade size on the front of it, designed specifically for sidewalks. That's a very agile piece of machinery, and we do the safe routes to school sidewalks immediately following a storm event. The trails, on the other hand, are 10-foot wide trails. So now we're clearing many of those trails with a truck, a small one-ton pickup truck. Not as agile, so getting to intersections, clearing out ped ramps and things like that are much more challenging for that purpose. So the quality of the clearing activity probably isn't as good. You could say, well, we could move the trackless down to the trail areas. We could, But that would delay the clearing activities as well, because they're so dedicated and devoted to those other priority areas. So it's just,
Yeah.
equipment
No,
is
I
somewhat
wasn't-
limited.
Yeah, I
and-
wasn't looking to criticize, but I was just, because I'm just happy we're doing this, because
Right.
last year, people were just tracking through it on their own. So
Right.
this is good, and I want it to continue.
Right.
But if there's problems, I think we need to discuss them as we're seeing them, rather than.
I think what Brian and I talked too, so on our work list are these intersections to update the ped paths, right? Because we have concerns about accessibility and access to the ped paths. Many of them are offset. There's no concrete pad leading up to it. So over time, over a period of time, we're gonna update those ped paths, get them closer. So when we design these intersections, taking in not only accessibility, but maintenance as well. So the easier we have to maintain them, the better off we are, and making sure that they can maintain clearance, right? Right now, if we were gonna make an effort to clear every ped pad, we're hand shoveling every ped pad. And that's pretty labor intensive.
Have you found, Brian, now that we've had a ton of snow, but where you've had to go back out a second time, some of these?
Well, so, we've really, the snow, I would say around Christmas is really the only one we really have to
Yeah.
base on. And kind of a unique snow event, because we get the snow and then what does it do? It starts blowing. And, we go out with the trucks to push drifts. Well, unfortunately, when sometimes you're pushing drifts, you're closing all of the access points off. And, to, a guy or whatever that you go by, it's like, oh yeah, the trail's plowed. It's like, well, it's not completely plowed because there's still a ramp, the portion of the ramp that's plugged tight. So, it's definitely just a learning curve and obviously a challenge, like I said, around the holidays when a lot of guys are on vacation trying to spend time with their families and stuff like that. It's like, well, does it make sense to send out a pickup truck after guys already worked an 8-hour shift to capture the trails? And that's what, we kind of got to weigh out, what's more important.
You're probably not gonna hear it from the public, but I had a couple people, because they know I'm on the bike, that comment that somebody plowed the paths,
Right.
so it was noticeable.
Right. Yep.
Interestingly, I think we've had a few people go out and clear paths that we're not clearing,
Correct.
Right.
that didn't normally clear their paths any fast either, so.
I drove by a good part of Packerland was cleared.
Yeah.
Right, I
That's
was just gonna
not
ask that.
That's what I thought.
Section,
And then
yeah.
Main Street between
Yeah. The whole Main Street.
Packerland and
cleared.
Sand Acres was cleared, and that's
Was
not
it?
us.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Packerland all the way down from Wabi down
Right.
to Maine.
Which is a concern because there's guy wires and there's water valves and other things that were not
Adjusted
adjusted to for
Hopefully
plowing,
not,
so someone could.
Because the ice rink,
But there were times that part of Packerland Trail was cleared last year, or previous year.
Right.
And I don't know who was doing it.
I think the Hobart section maybe gets cleared, or the native section, but I don't know, because there's a gentleman I think that clears part of that trail. Yeah, it's
I've
one.
noticed between the trailhead that starts just off of Cormier, that's where in the past, there's been times that's been cleared up to Highway 172. And I,
That one, yeah,
and that's, there's no houses there. There's
right,
a soybean field and
Yeah.
somebody's plowing it.
Someone got a new UTV with a plow on it that they want to try.
yeah.
Yeah, the other area of challenge, I'll just mention, we talked about it last time, is on the Ashwaubenon River Trail by the marina there. There's pavers and not concrete sidewalks. Just, we have to use specific equipment, or if we use other equipment, we gotta go in a specific direction. So it may not be perfect, and we're hoping that we don't damage the pavers too much. And then there's a lot of restoration work.
is that pickup truck used for other?
Yeah, oh yeah, called
So-
parking lots.
So parks.
Yeah, yep.
The reason I asked that question is because at the particular church I go to, they have a big unit.
Mm-hmm.
What they do is they put literally a huge rubber tire.
Yeah,
They cut it
right.
so they don't ruin the,
Yeah.
now they don't get as clean, obviously, but they don't damage things
Right,
as well.
helps with
'cause
the
rubber-
irregularities.
Yeah, the rubber kind of bounces over the top of it.
Yeah, no, the trucks that go out are the same ones that plow
Yeah.
parking
so
lots,
dual
be scraping.
usage. Sure.
So I know what you're talking about though.
Well, I just gotta say, the trails have been really clear. I've checked them a couple of
Yeah.
times, and before Christmas and then after Christmas, and I think that's great. And I've noticed there's so many more that are cleared, and that's why I was wondering. I mean, the whole Packer Land, one piece, the south end of it was cleared, and I'm like, oh, Linda's probably excited about
I
that.
was.
Yeah, they're like, there you go. And then West Main was cleared, and that was the one we had talked about. And Sand Acres, we went into the subdivision.
Yeah, someone else did that.
So, yeah, so I don't know who's clearing, but it's nice, and they're well cleared, and I think that's great. My concern on the buttons, like especially the ones that I was concerned about were on Wabi and Ridge.
Mhm.
The four corners, and we're clearing the trail now on the south side of the road, which is great. And that southwest corner, there is a button, and it's all paved up to there, and it's got snow stacked this high. So you can't literally get to it. So someone walking down the trail, if they want to go continue east, and then maybe go south on Packerland or on Ridge, they can't get to that button because you literally have to kind of so that was my concerns with that area. And then some of the other intersections that are hard surfaced, either the business next to it is not clearing it properly again, so you can't get to the button, or like the ramps are done. And usually, Stein Garden's really good, Quick Trip's really good. Bellin has not been clearing that corner at all on the southeast corner of Wabi and Allied. That hasn't been cleared at all. And so it's just things like that I see when I'm out walking that, we got it open, but if someone can't reach a button to push to safely cross, are we setting them up? So and I understand what you're saying. I know it's hard and, we're starting, but just something to keep in mind, I guess, as we move along to see if we can kind of clear those that do have pavement available for people to actually get to it.
Right.
There are quite a few that actually do have pavement.
The one on Ridge is a little interesting, so we've reviewed it in the field. So yeah, you're correct. Head pad for what would be eastbound, right? Eastbound travel on the south side of Wabi, so the trail travel. Head pad is to the south on South Ridge. There is a pavement section that reaches the head pad, and then immediately behind it is the traffic control box. So snow storage off the head pad, we would have to basically try to meander the snow around the control box, otherwise we hit the control box with snow storage. So that's one of those areas where the equipment, because we're using a plow truck, isn't as agile or conducive to get the snow off to the side. And then the head pad itself is for eastbound travel on that crosswalk on Wabi, which is where the trail technically terminates at South Ridge. So there's only a ped ramp on the other side, and it basically forces you to the north, the sidewalk on Wabi. So our thought was that's kind of the termination of the trail. Instead of crossing South Ridge on the south side of Wabi, cross Wabi to the north side to then cross onto the sidewalk, if that makes sense. And we can I can log in and show you. But that was the idea behind it. Is it's going to be really difficult for us to maintain that intersection the way it's set up. And at the end of the day, there's nothing across outside of the ped pad for you to cross back north anyway.
Well, if you're getting southbound though, you'd need, if you go southbound on Ridge, then you'd be on that side. You know what I mean? Even though there's not a crossing there, but if you're going southbound on Ridge, you need to be on the east side of, you know what I mean? So there is a reason to cross over there as a pedestrian if you're going southbound on Ridge, because you would walk down on the east side of Ridge.
Is there only sidewalk on the east side, or is
There's no sidewalk.
There's no
There's no
sidewalk.
sidewalk at all on Ridge. So either way, but if you're walking, you walk again, like Ryan said, you want to face traffic. So someone walking, that wants to go southbound on Ridge would have to go northbound first, come across, and then maybe, could do that too. Or they just
cross at the crosswalk on
go northbound, then cross
west side of
eastbound by the oil place, and then go south that way too. Do that.
I would say the challenges with getting snow storage still would stand, because I'm just looking at a street view here, but there's the pedestrian or the control cabinet is directly there. So you're going to you can see here, you're going to push the snow, you're going to hit the electrical grid, service bed.
So those are the challenges, the physical challenges that we have, and how do we be efficient with it? What equipment do we best use? How much manpower do we devote to it?
The one thing I would add too is, like, in the southern portions of the village, we're generally gonna be going out there with a pickup truck. So like a trackless that is able to articulate and stuff like that, they do travel very low speed too. So to actually get it out there to Wabi, you're most likely going to be trailering it or spending, probably an hour getting it out there because it has no suspension. To drive it down the roadway, it's a very rough ride. It's different than, like a municipality I used to work for, they have toolkits, which is like a UTV, except for you can put a bucket and everything on it. We don't have anything like that here. But that would be, a best case application for some here. They go down the road like a UTV can, but they also can have a snowboard on the front, a bucket, all that kind of stuff, because you'd be able to articulate in areas like these. But we're kind of just dealing with the deck of cards that we have.
What are the width of those? Do they vary?
No, you can get them down to 60 inches. But when I say 60 inches, it's 60, so your 5-foot sidewalk, you have to be right in the center of it, otherwise you roll inside. Or you're driving on the edges. So they definitely, have their downfalls also.
So I don't know what you want to, do we have a list of all these issues where they are located?
I could send them through to notify the village, so they should have them all.
Okay. Do we need to be aware of those and have a list of them so we can monitor them?
Well, I think that if you guys are out, we've gone through once where there's that notify the village on the website, so you can certainly send it through that way. That's kind of the way.
I'm more interested in what our plans are for future with each one. But to Brian's point, well, okay, if that equipment doesn't work,
Right.
Is there a possibility in the future to get a piece of equipment that does work?
Yeah.
Right? That's why I have budgets, right?
Right.
Although there's probably never any money in the budget to do that. But, I mean, if we're gonna continue on this path.
Yes.
Not trying to plan.
Yes.
If we're gonna continue to work on the path, I
Yeah.
think we also need to continue to work on how we're gonna get
That's good.
Yeah, to me, this first year is we just need to figure out what we need to figure out, because you never know what you don't know. So I think the first year we just have to say, what are the challenges? What do we need to plan for the future? So the first year, I certainly, to me, it's great what we're doing, and it will only get better, I'm sure. At least I'm hoping it will only get better. But we have to know what to think about what to do, and when some of this equipment runs the end of its useful life, and it all does, then what do we replace it with? You replace it with. We've always replaced with, the things that plow the sidewalk, because that's what we needed it for. Well, if we need it for something else, then maybe that changes what we look at, but we don't know that until we start doing this.
Maybe what we do is let Brian go through this winter. Then we review it this summer.
Yeah.
You can tell us what kind of issues you ran into, and then maybe there won't be any money next year to do pass. But if there is, what do we want to maybe do? So we'll just keep it in mind that we're going to bring the subject.
No, that sounds
Okay.
great.
Thanks, Brian. That was good.
Yep, no problem.
Anything
That's
else?
all that I have, unless there's anything else for me.
Unless so many questions. All right. Then the next for report is Rex. Correct.
I just have two, both involved in the Ashwaubenon Trail. So we're doing some lighting around the Mansell Flats apartment complex that has given us problems for a number of years now. So but we did get a number of calls or comments that the trail is much more lit now in that area. We've got some of the lights on. We're going to be finishing them up, or we're contracting with Boss to do that within the next week or two. There's one broken line. We don't know when it was broke, but that's why 3 of the lights are out, and that'll be done this summer when the ground freezes. So, but we have gotten comments about the lighting from Mansell Flat residents, as well as they are very excited about the trail there. So that's a positive thing. The other thing is we attended a meeting over at Grafe, downtown. Grafe is the project manager for our bridge project going into Ashwaubenon Park. The contracts have been signed. They have been picked up, and I would say probably within 1 to 2 weeks, and you'll start to see mobilization over at Alden Station. They're probably going to float the barge into the creek from the Alden Station side versus the park side, but they'll still have some stuff at Ashwaubenon. So very shortly, you should start seeing pilings being driven into the river. So that's a long time coming.
Very good.
When we originally talked about that, what was the original price that we had, that we're talking about?
We've been talking about that for about 15, 20 years now.
Yeah,
But that
inflation.
being said, the first number we had originally came up with, I think, was about 1.2 or 1.3 million. That's the number that I remember. And I want to say the contract was for 2.08. That's where it stands right now.
I believe this project includes plaza area and other improvements to the approach, at least from the park, that wasn't included as part of that initial.
And that includes, there's going to be a number of WPS power boxes in that area for future potential special event type things, similar to how we have a couple of those power boxes for our food truck rallies. Those will be in that area. There'll be at least 2 of them in that area as well. So WPS is lining all that up and trying to figure out where to run the power from, which is probably going to be from the baseball diamond. That's the nearest, transformer to try and hook all that stuff up. So that definitely increased the cost. When we were fully into it, the cost estimate was about between 1.4 and 1.6. And the bids came in at about 2.01.
When you with that, with budget and building bridges and stuff like that, there, I don't know, it's just,
It's expensive.
what?
It's expensive. Yeah. Everything is, yeah, exactly.
So take advantage of it when it's built. Get your money's worth out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use it a lot. Anything else for us or any other questions for us, anybody?
I got some for, thanks for doing the gazebo in Waterford parking lot. From my neighbors. It just looks so
It
nice.
makes it look fun, yeah.
It does. It just,
Yeah.
Kind of
it's
brings
cool.
the park up.
it's
Yeah,
just cool to drive in there and see that.
that's nice.
I'm debating whether to go with colored lights or stick with the white lights. The white lights kind of give that
It does.
look.
But any kind of lights is better than no lights, so.
Good to know people recognize it.
All right, any report from Wello? Susie, did you get anything from
I have
Natalie?
nothing.
Okay. Then we will go on. Action items. A is discussion and possible action on bicycle friendly community application.
Well, you have the application in front of you. I know we had talked about this for quite a while. The thought was after the holidays that we would have about a month and a half to dig in and take care of it. However, when we actually looked at the application in detail, it turned out to be 89 pages of fairly detailed information that is required. I've applied for a $500,000 grant. And it was about a quarter of the size of this. So and I get it. There's a lot of information that they need. But in terms of the village applying for it, or at least myself being able to take the lead on it, it's going to be out of my wheelhouse at this stage because of when it's due. So then, and it's a lot of technical information, which I don't have. So we'd have to really be doing some deep diving. So I guess, I don't know, I'm bringing it forward that, unless a lot of people are working on it that have the ability to do it, it's not going to be easily done by a February deadline.
I think that was my concern when I saw this. I thought, it's just going on forever, 89 pages. And I was reading through that and I thought, I wouldn't even know where to find this information. It would be someone from the village would have to do it. I guess that was my concern. Who's going to be the one, my question, who's going to be the one doing this? And
Right, it's very technical
Oh,
in
yeah.
nature, but if you look at it, there's a lot of stuff in there that we would just say, no,
Yeah.
because we don't have a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, it's 89 pages, but a lot of it, we wouldn't have to put anything because we don't have that. You know, and the thing is, you know, this was discussed in June, and I know everyone's really busy. The committee itself, I think, is not technically able to do this. We don't have that expertise and knowledge that we can do it. It would have to be something that staff would put together and someone spearheading it, and, you know, getting it organized and working with the public works director, working with the public safety director, and trying to get it finished. But you know, at this point, I don't, you know, it sounds like no one started, it hasn't been started, so I don't think it can feasibly be done to meet that February deadline.
I really like the idea of doing this, and I think it's worthwhile, but we have to be able to do it right rather than.
Well, and the thing with the application, it's, you know, if we're doing it to get bicycle-friendly community, we're probably not gonna get it the first time. I mean,
No.
It's a process that we go through. It's almost like an assessment to see where we are at in regard to bicyclists in our community. So it's a tool that we can use then. They review it, they get back to us with a comprehensive review of our application and then they also can provide us some technical expertise based on our information. So yeah, we're probably not gonna get bike friendly, you know, status. It's not gonna happen for maybe many years, but it will help us to make decisions and move forward on an engineering, education, enforcement, equity, and evaluation form. So we know as a committee, and the community knows where we can step forward, where we're doing really well, where we need to go, okay, we need to do a little more work in this. So that's really what this is.
And I thought the same thing when we looked at that. I thought, well, I never thought of that. We should, you know, we need to be in our plan and then going forward, we need to be looking at those things and considering those things, which I know that personally, I never really thought much about that. But after seeing it, it made a lot of sense. So yeah, so I see this as a tool just to give us guidance of where we need to work.
That's the way I looked at it, Tracy. So I went on their site. They've been going on since 2003. There's 1,900 people that have applied. Out of those 1,900 right now, there's 496 communities that are on there. There's 1,527 friendly businesses and there's 221 bike-friendly universities out of the whole United States. So it's not easy to get on, number one. Number two, so then I started going through it and I'm like, well, but it would be educational for us to see what other communities, because Madison's, if you go on to their, I think it's called bikeleague.org/community, you can literally click on your state and it will give you who is involved in that state, even the universities that are involved. And of course, Madison and areas around Madison pop up on there right away.
Well, Green Bay just got bronze. They played, I think, 2 or 3 years in a row, didn't get anything, and then this last go round, then they got the bronze. But there's like, what, 24, I think, communities in Wisconsin that have it right now?
We have 24 communities, 6 universities, and Wisconsin is ranked number 29 today.
Do you know who did it for Green Bay?
It was the planning department, and then they worked, Wello helped out with it, Natalie helped with it.
That's why I didn't know if we have any resources or like interns or like a Wello or just because I feel like there's a lot of communities, like we have a lot of resources in our communities, but everyone, again, is busy. So like, are there other, with all those other communities or Green Bay, is there anywhere else that we could get ideas from as outside sources that could help us get that accomplished so that it's not so heavy on our staff? So maybe we could ask Natalie how much they did, or maybe they have tips for us even as to like ways to get it done more efficiently, or I don't know, with asking someone that's already done it.
Should we maybe take a few pages each meeting and review them and decide what we can do and what we need support with, or not even do that? Is it more difficult than that?
I mean, I guess staff needs to weigh in on it because it's, you know, I think it's more their bailiwick than it is ours, in my opinion. You know, committees normally, I don't know, don't do this type of thing. Most of the committees have staff that would do this type of thing and then come back to a meeting with a draft or whatever for people to review and then give their input that way. But so I don't know. feel that I mean, we could certainly say, Brian, can you do your section? And he would come in and we go through it with him and help him do it. Or Brian does his section. Too many Brian, sorry. And do it that way. But, I think staff could do the same and work
Do you
through.
think do you think that's a possibility though? If somebody's willing to volunteer their time to help them out, maybe that isn't even help because we don't have the knowledge.
Right. I mean, I think if someone wanted to help with it from the committee, I think, they would maybe welcome it. I don't know. We'd have to check with staff and see where they're at on it.
Yeah, I think where I think my concern lies is when we discussed this back in June or July, I think it was actually, it was this idea that it was a designation kind of similar to, and this is my perspective, not necessarily how the committee conveyed it, but if you're familiar with Tree City USA, or Bird City USA, or Monarch City USA, you apply for these designations, they're literally a single page request. All right, 4 or 5 questions tops. You have an application fee. You have to meet 6 standards, and then you get designated as a Tree City USA or anything like that. I didn't have the full application back in July. I think I probably would have provided a different recommendation to the committee had I had the 90-page application. Because this will take, we can do this as a staff, that's not a problem, but it will take substantial resources of staff time from our community development department, our public works department, our parks department admin to generate the data that's necessary to answer these questions effectively. And there are actually questions between the questions too. As an example, we got to go through and do a complete inventory of all of our bike facilities in the village of Ashwaubenon and then map that and then submit it as part of the application. That's going to be pretty substantial. It's going to take a lot of staff time. And normally, and I think my recommendation back in July was, if this is an easy thing like Tree City USA, again, my perspective, I was assuming, which was wrong with me, we can create this easy application and bring this forward to the village board for consideration so that they actually approve the submission of it. Had I known that it was going to be this in-depth and take this much resource, I would have recommended to the committee that we brought this forward to the village board first. And if the village board gives us the direction to complete the effort, then we would allocate the resources. Because ultimately, it's the board that has to make that decision to allocate those resources. And at that point, do we push for February 15th? I would say that I would be a little reluctant to get it in February 15th, just because of the volume of work that needs to be done. Certainly, we can get the application in August, and I think that would provide us sufficient time. But again, I think the board should weigh in on that. Beyond that, I reached out to the city of Sturgeon Bay is one of those communities that's been designated as bronze status, and asked them how they went about the application process, and they have a very similar pedestrian and bicycle advisory committee that we have here. And so their staff, Tracy's saying no.
No, I'm sorry. They do have a committee there.
Yes. So from when I talked to the city administrator there, they applied, their initial application was done in 2012. So what they did is they engaged their advisory committee and staff. They ultimately went to their common council first, got approval through the common council to go through the process of applying, recognizing that they may not actually get the designation for a couple, 3 tries. But at least it would be an opportunity, as has been suggested at the committee, to evaluate where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are, and then begin to prioritize and strategize behind those strengths and weaknesses. It took them, the committee and staff, as has been suggested here, is just kind of tackling a section at a time, several months to complete the overall application to then submit it to the League of American Bicyclists. So it's a pretty daunting task, and unlike Madison, we just simply don't have the staff like Madison's got a whole bicycle and pedestrian engineering division within the public works department.
The college, right? So you're going
right.
Yeah.
And that's what we found too in looking at those 24 cities, is many of them are college towns. So they're a heavy bike using
right now, all around Madison. Arona, everything that's around Madison is on here for a bronze.
So staff is not opposed to doing it. It's just, I think we need to be a little bit strategic about our effort so that we can maximize our efficiency in completing the application. But if we're going to devote staff resources, because we're going to be pulling staff for literally hours to complete this, this is not an easy task. It's going to create resource need. I would feel more comfortable if the village board said, yes, we definitely indeed want to apply for this. So that's my recommendation, and I would recommend that we bring this forward to the board for their consideration, and then we allow the board to give us direction. I think most reasonably, August would be the appropriate timeline, but if February is the desired submission date, then we hammer it out.
Well, there's only specific dates that they accept you, whether you're a community. Is August the next one?
Yeah, August 30th.
You know, I think the other thing too is when you look through the application in your packet, there's a number of areas that are highlighted in blue.
Mm-hmm.
Those are new to this new submission. So I'm not sure if they were included last year or in July when we were talking about this. These are all brand new to the application. So probably, to me anyway, just by looking at it anecdotally, increase the application size by close to 50%.
I'd say it's almost all.
Yeah. They did update it, and it was, when we talked about it in June, they had this final one out. And that's why we had talked about it then, because we knew the deadlines, we knew that the application was out. So this was what it was in June, because they had taken a year off, I think, or a year and a half off to revamp it all, and they added the equity stuff, and then they added some other things into it as well.
Yeah, I think the equity is mostly that kind of teal bluish highlighted
in the back,
stuff.
yeah.
Are places that are currently approved going to be required to go back in and fill out like
The place that every year, I think you go in and you update it. So if you've changed something or whatever, you can update it. So the first year is probably the hardest year because you've got to get everything in, you know. But then after that, every year you go on.
Probably the smallest areas in Nashua.
Yeah, Appleton is in there too,
Shorewood.
right?
I didn't see Appleton.
I think Appleton got it a couple years ago.
Yeah, there's some smaller communities. Monona is probably, I think, population-wise, the smallest community. Sturgeon Bay obviously
It's
is right
small.
there.
Yeah, Sturgeon Bay is in there at 96.
But you have communities of similar size like Verona, River Falls, things of that nature. So size-wise, we're not off per se, but it's just, from what I understand and talking with Stephen's point, the reapplication process is relatively easy because you use last year's application.
it was easy until this year. Everyone else that's gonna have to reapply this year with all the blue is probably gonna be surprised. Do we know if there's like a percentage that has to be, I don't wanna say completed, because obviously we'd wanna do it as thorough as possible, but just looking again, like you said, at the sections that are maybe pretty like unknown or
I don't
not
think,
like, I don't wanna say how seriously do we want to, but I mean, some of the stuff, like with the questions are just so specific, like you'd almost have to drive around and count. Yeah. Like, how necessary.
It's interesting. So there's two, at least I think there's a couple of thought processes here. One, complete the full application, and you genuinely know. Because you'll get a report card and you'll genuinely know what your strengths and weaknesses are. The other aspect of it is on the league site, they have a quick assessment tool that I looked at. There's like 5 questions, 5 categories, and there's about 12 or 15 individual questions. And if you answer those, it'll tell you whether or not, just based on those 15 questions, whether or not you're going to qualify. When I did it, now I don't know the answers directly. So example, is there a community-wide Safe Routes to School program that includes bicycling education? Well, there's kind of a Safe Routes to School program. What does that all mean? I don't know. So I put no because it's not a whole yes kind of thing. Anyway, so I answered the questions, and to completing that assessment says, no, we don't qualify. Now, recognizing that on the application, you have the full list of all the things you probably should start to consider doing. You don't have to necessarily fill out the application to tell you you're not ready yet.
Right. Yeah.
You can start kind of working through the list and saying, what are the top priorities for our community to try to address? And you can do it that way. So
And to me, that's what I see the value of this, figuring out what we need to do, because I look at a lot of that and Yeah, I'm thinking, we're not gonna make it.
I thought we were doing really good when we updated the ordinance on the bike racks.
Yeah.
But then when I went through
And it's
this,
in there.
I was pretty depressed.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I was like, wow,
Yeah,
we're not getting
No.
a lot of these things.
No.
Yeah.
Or at least there are items that aren't in sync with one another, right? So we put in a lot of effort in certain areas, but then they don't necessarily align with the global or the entire outlook of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So we put together a bike road. Yeah, okay, but that's kind of a public safety function, and it doesn't necessarily tie directly into maybe all the other educational components that the village could or may or does provide, right? They've been doing it. It helps public safety. It's kind of parochial in that regard. Not saying that negatively, but it doesn't align or match with maybe some of our other efforts. And if we could figure out how to do that, right?
and that's the benefit of it, I think, knowing what others are doing. In my job, my husband and I had actually worked with other communities that are applying for this particular award. And it was amazing to sit down at a table with the public works director, the parks and recreation director, public safety, and anyone else, maybe the administrator, and talk about this application. And the public works director, the public safety director would say, well, we're doing this, this, and this. And the park rec director go, you are? They had no idea. And they all were, kind of doing their thing in their own little silo. And they found they had a lot more going on and a lot more bike ped stuff going on than you even realized within the departments. So again, that's, I think, is a good thing for people to be talking and, kind of coordinating things, working together on stuff.
So we're kind of ahead of the curve here because we have the park department in, we have administration, we have the police, we have public works. So everybody's here, so we kind of all know.
Right.
There's nobody saying, oh, I didn't know you guys are doing that.
Right. And we have a committee, which is huge. And the committee has been around for a long time. And a lot of communities don't have a bicycle pedestrian committee.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal too. So we get a little plus for that one. A lot of that we don't have, but we have a plus for
That was a yes one.
That one is a yes one.
When
Yes.
you go to those communities, what do they see the advantages to be a part of this? For their, to the
For their
public?
communities,
Yeah, is it for the community or is it
it helps.
to bring people in to the area?
It's a combination, I think. They want to be a bike-friendly community because they see the value of that economically, community development-based, making it easier for not only people to encourage people to come to their community, but also the residents to move. So that's a lot of the reasons that people are doing it. We've done a lot of them in Minnesota with different communities there that have really tried to get the award. So, and that seems like the main reasons.
Because it's very noticeable if you look at the universities, the cities that are involved.
Yeah.
La Crosse, Madison, Milwaukee,
Yeah.
Stout.
Yeah.
I mean, and every one of those, they've got this going on. So did they get support from the universities? And maybe.
I'm sure they did.
Probably have
There?
The students are using bicycles.
Right,
Yeah.
through their community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And they had some grad students or something.
Yeah.
That was part of somebody's class. The first day.
It'd be interesting if through well, if they would know if the University of Green Bay is looking at something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if Natalie would have any information on
She might.
They're pretty involved.
I have to run. I got a call.
Okay, thank you.
Very well. Thank you.
See you guys.
All right, so where do we want to go with this then? I think February deadline is ridiculous in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
there's no way, it's too much pressure, and it's not fair, and it's not a good deadline anymore. So I guess, and Joel feels that it needs to go to village board or to go to village board for them to approve going ahead with it. So then if this committee still feels strongly about it, then we probably should make a motion, go to the village board for permission or whatever to apply for bicycle friendly community status. And then we need to determine who's gonna take the lead on it and how it's gonna get done, I think staff needs to determine who's gonna take the lead and decide how they're gonna do it.
Since
I don't
Aaron
think that's
wasn't
our
here
role.
today, we'll make Aaron.
Say again?
Nothing.
Yeah.
That's a fair second, yeah. Where's the community development stuff in there?
He's got nothing to do.
Well, and all the census stuff, Aaron works on a daily basis, or something, they get to grab that all up, so.
It would likely need to be a team effort. As Tracy had mentioned, if we went through this process and had to put together the information, it would need to be done in a group session with group effort. Each person kind of designated for responsibility.
I mean, the good thing about the application from what I looked at, like Brian could take his public works stuff and fill all his out. There's someone doing all the basic general stuff, and then Brian, public safety, Brian can take his stuff and fill his out and then compile it so that you can have multiple people accessing it and being able to put their stuff in and then sit down to review it all together or whatever.
I think if we spend some time going through this 90 pages or even the, I think 15 things that Joel mentioned, we kind of have a better sense of what are the concerns and look at those and just sort of just doing an assessment of where are we in relation to what they're looking for. 'Cause you read through this, you can kind of, you can, it's not that difficult to know what their emphasis is. And if we can just take a look at what they're looking for, where we are, where we stand, and maybe just kind of do an assessment on that and just see, just where are we? What are we doing well and what have we just ignored? And
Do we have a relationship with somebody from Green Bay that went through the process that could give us
Yeah, Stephanie did it all, and she's the planner in Green Bay, and she did it. I had
could
reached
you
out
give
to
us
her
an
early on.
idea of the amount of time it took?
My understanding is they got it done pretty quick, but she was the key, and then she
Yeah,
reached
so-
out to all the departments, and they got it taken care of with less than a month time. Is that when they first put it
Kind of
together?
coordinated the efforts.
Yeah.
We got everybody to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
but they probably had the staff to devote time to do that.
Right, exactly.
They had
Yeah.
a big enough staff to.
Right. Yeah. She might have worked with people and got everybody on board and got it going. So I don't know exactly how that was all handled specifically, but
It was just the thought, but if that's the way it was, then that's what we need.
I'm wondering if this should also, just to throw another idea out there, to almost be put as almost for the time being, a standing agenda item to start reviewing some of the stuff, because I don't want to do, I don't think the village, I can't speak for the village board, but my concern was that the village board is going to think that we're doing this kind of, I wouldn't say willy-nilly, but just picking things out of the air, and I think a lot, looking at this needs to be reviewed, like what do we need to do if we're truly interested in getting this status, and then that needs to be incorporated into our bike and pedestrian plan, because if it's not part of the plan, then it's going to seem like we're just, picking things all over the place, and what's the purpose behind it? So do we need to look at incorporating what they're looking for in the grant application into the written plan, or not?
I don't think at this point. I think that if we decide to go ahead with the application, we get some feedback from them on things that we need to work on, and then see what that is. And some of it may go in the plan, some does not, right? Some it may be ordinance-based, some may be standards-based. I mean, all of the stuff on complete streets legislation, the state doesn't even have complete streets anymore. We certainly don't have a local complete street, so that would be an ordinance-based thing, that wouldn't be in the plan. So I think some of the things coming back would not necessarily be plan-based, but
Ultimately, if there was an application, and whether it be got status or denied status or they have an honorable mention, it's clearly going to have recommendations. From those recommendations, we would need to present that back to the board, because that creates a necessity for resources in some respect. So that, again, would have to be planned for, strategized, and budgeted, and prioritized based on the other needs of the community too. So,
What was Green Bay's purpose to be on this? She said. Because to me, if you're going to present something to somebody, you better have a good reason why you're presenting it. Why do you want to invest this money? What's the outcome? What are we going to get? So I don't understand, the only reason I say that, Tracy, is I don't understand is I haven't had enough time to really dig into this organization, to understand them. What's their purpose besides just saying, we're this organization, you can get this bronze, and the public may see it and they may come to your city or village or whatever and bicycle. And that may be all you need, but I don't know that yet because when we got it Friday, right?
Yep.
And that's the other thing I would like is if we're going to have something like this, is if we could get it to us sooner than 2 days before we have a meeting or 3 days before the meeting. Because this is valuable to be able to have some time. It's almost like working with the government when they hand them a budget, right? I hate to use that as but that's kind of the same example.
Exactly. You don't have time to look at it.
Yeah, you don't have time to look at it and review it. And I don't know this organization at all. You probably know a lot more about it because of your involvement.
I know Green
with the
Bay
company.
did their bicycle and pedestrian plan. They had that completed, and one of the goals in there was to apply for bike-friendly community. And they feel very strongly, some of their staff, and I think overall, that they would like their community to be more bicycle friendly. And they've been doing things to make it more bicycle friendly. They've been putting in bike lanes. They've been, doing all kinds of different things. So I think this just was a natural thing for them to say, let's try to do this. And the planning department took the lead on it.
And they may have gotten
Put in their
educated
application.
by doing this process. So
Right,
that's
exactly.
what I would be
That's-
looking at is
Right.
what can we get out of this for ourselves,
Right.
for education? And that's why when we started this, to Rex's point, maybe before we present it to the village, maybe we say, okay, we have 80 some pages. Let's divide it up. As they say, we can't eat the elephant, right?
Yep.
Let's take so many pages each meeting. Let's all take a time, if we have time. Easier for us retired people to say that.
Yeah.
But to review them, to see if there's things in there that, as Rex pointed out, we have already done.
Mhm.
Or we
And there
need
are
to
some.
do.
Yep.
And then at least we've got something to present. I guess I'd feel more comfortable if I understood where we were at before I stood in front of a board and said, hey, you guys, there's a lot of value in doing this.
Yeah.
That's why these other
Yeah,
cities are doing
We
it.
could take a step back and look at the application and pick off pieces of it at our next few meetings.
Yeah.
Review it, say, yeah, we're doing this, no, we're not doing this, yes, we're doing that. And then just kind of move through it and make a decision whether we think it's a value to pursue it and send it on to village board for them to decide.
Or if we
are
just
gonna
use
go
it
ahead
as a
with it.
learning tool
Right,
for
we
our
just-
own, and maybe at some point we
Right.
are there.
Right, at some point we say, okay, now we're here and we would
Yep.
like to pursue this and get this done.
But I would, with
Step
your
forward.
contacts, because obviously you have them, if you learn something from them, I would appreciate you share that. If you hear somebody else that's on this,
Yeah.
why did you do it? How did you
Yeah.
do it? What?
Well, and I could have Stephanie come in too. I could ask her, she
That-
could come in from Green Bay and say,
See,
go
that would
through
be-
it. What was the process like? How much work was it? She can at least then
Yeah,
explain
she'd
all
be
of that.
willing.
I'm sure she
That
would,
would
so
be
we
nice.
could reach out to her and say, okay, do that, and then maybe the next meeting, we take just a piece of it and look at it. Plus her coming in, talking about it, see if she can make it to the meeting. And then maybe even Natalie, because Natalie from Wello was involved, and maybe she'd be willing to just help in some way as well, or at least
Okay.
give some more insight into it. So I can check and see if they would.
Yeah, that would be good. To me, looking at all these things and accomplishing the goal of being a bicycle-friendly community isn't as important as not having the chief read a list of people who got hit by cars. So my goal would be just to make it safe to ride in Ashwaubenon or walk in Ashwaubenon, whether we're a bicycle-friendly community or not. It's nice, but the bigger goal is not to have the chief reading accident reports.
Exactly, yes. And if this helps us get there, great.
Yes,
If it doesn't, it's not
exactly.
gonna do it, then
That's
why
right. So
waste time?
So if we go through here and say, yeah, that is important, and we're not doing it, then we have to figure out a way to do it.
Right.
I almost think that if I were on the village board and say, what is the purpose? How is it gonna benefit us? But more importantly, how much staff time is it going to take? And you put the cart before the horse, we've gotta go with the staff first. See what their projects are this summer, can they fit it in? Maybe you can put it off for a year, but if I were on the village board, I would vote for it. I would vote to, if we want to present it to them, fine. But I would be so concerned about staff time because the staff already has the budget. They already are. I mean, it just would concern me about staff. I'd have to know more about how staff would fit in, how they could give us all the information before I were a board member and approve something that staff's supposed to do. And I don't know how much time it's going to be, how much money it's going to take.
Some years we do.
Yeah, see,
Not
just,
this
you're
year.
gonna need help, and I just,
Again, I don't, a lot of this stuff in here is technical. I don't think answering the yes, no's, the check boxes is all that difficult, but there's cross-jurisdictional coordination. There's just an effort to kind of sit down and walk through it. So biggest time crunches here are coordinating with other jurisdictions and getting information that's necessary to complete the application. We have private partners, school districts, Metro, the Green Bay Metro Transit System. All of those partners are going to need to supply information to us. Then there's an aspect of we have to have field staff go out and do inventorying of information that we don't currently readily have, as far as the type of facilities that we have in a mapped database, a GIS-based database. So there's time right there. And then beyond that, it's just going through the boxes and checking yes or no. Technically, do we have the capability of doing it? Absolutely. But is it the priority of the village to do this application? Certainly a priority of the committee, but the village board needs to know that, hey, we're going to be taking staff time and allocating a week of field staff to go out and inventory, track, and GPS information. We're going to spend probably at least a week of staff time, aggregate staff time to go through all of these things, work collectively in putting this together. And we got to go back to committee and say, this is kind of where we're at. What do you think? And again, we can do that. We have the ability to do that. It's just a matter of, do we have the time and is it the priority of the village to do that? Because if a taxpayer were to come to me and say, what are you working on? How come my street isn't plowed? Or how come this isn't being done? Or whatever it is, everybody finds something to complain about. I'm going to say, well, I'm working on this bicycle-friendly application because it's a priority of the village.
Right.
And I'm comfortable doing that. I'm comfortable defending that if it is a priority of the village. But I want to know that from the village board, right? And I feel more comfortable from a staff perspective knowing that this is a directive of the board. This is where you want to be. Now the board, this is an advisory group, so you're advising the board and seeking their support on these efforts. So at the end of the day, this committee is really going and providing that
how
recommendation.
can the board approve it when they don't know how much time it's going to take for each staff member to do it?
Yeah, and we can analyze that
That's
and
what I think
come.
needs
Yep.
analyzation before it goes to even the board for a presentation. I just really think it needs to be analyzed how much time, and I'm not against it. I think August is too soon. Sounds like there's a lot of complicated things in there. Why can't we go through this, take a year? It's no hurry. I just think August is even too soon. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think we could learn a little bit from Steph.
Sure.
I look at
Somebody that's
pages.
experienced it.
Yeah.
What did it take to coordinate it?
And if she did it all in how many hours, how many weeks?
I
what got it?
haven't looked at every other page.
I didn't even understand
Page
half
through it,
this
there's
stuff.
a lot of stuff,
I don't understand this stuff.
you know, I mean,
I think there's lots of things that we can look through in there as a group and even set the recommendations and looking, because there are a lot of things that I'm like, would have never even thought of that related to my, would have
Yeah.
never even thought of that.
That's why
But I think we
definitely
can
think we
do
need
a lot of that ourselves first and be going through that, right? I get where this is bike and ped, right? So I get that it makes sense for our committee to be the ones talking and looking and going through that, but I can definitely see where needing to now step above and look at all the things that have to be balanced at a village level, where like from a priority standpoint, it would not be necessary. So I feel like it would be good for us to internally look at this and see what ideas and stuff we think, because really I think that's where we're supposed to be guiding as opposed to taking resources from other.
You could be our lobbyist and go to the board.
I have so much spare time to do that, and I would love it.
And to tie into Rex's point, it would be certainly reasonable from a staff perspective if this is a standing agenda item. We say, okay, next month, let's tackle this section. So staff, if you can kind of take a look at this, at the next month, let's go through each of those questions at committee level So you can kind of see where all of our
Where all
none of the
this-
aboves are.
Yes.
And we're gonna find out
Oh, I
that we have a
agree.
lot of none of the aboves. Okay, then from there, which one are the low-hanging fruits that we want to tackle? Which ones align to our bike and head plan and some of our other initiatives? Or are there engagements that we can make that are gonna improve that? Whether it's our relationship with WELL, with the school district, with Metro Transit, whatever, we can identify those and work from those. And then by doing that, you're kind of preparing the application for that next cycle.
Okay, so do we need a motion on that at all, Joel? If we're just gonna, it sounds like consensus, maybe I'm not right, is people are thinking we should look at it, get it going. I'll see if Steph and Natalie can come into one of our meetings and talk about what they did, how much work it was also, so we get some more information. And then we'll just start picking through the application. We'll take sections of it, look at it, get a feel for it, and then at some point, when we feel comfortable or whatever, we can make a decision on where we go from there.
I would like to motion it because I would like it to be part of our meeting. But I
Okay.
don't know if I want to motion it in general or if we want to literally divide up how many pages we want to do at each meeting so we get through it.
I don't know, maybe
Or do we
Steph
just
can
want
look
to
at it
start
and
to attack it?
decide, or
And because
whatever.
some pages may take
So
longer
we'll
than
go by
others.
sections. of it.
Yeah.
The way-
Sections?
Yeah,
Divided by
'cause it's divided by
sections.
sections.
Divided by sections, that
Yeah.
way
So you want to
you're
put
kind
this
of by
section
a
at,
subject.
Yeah, and I would recommend doing it by sections, but don't commit to yourself to saying, this
We gotta have
month, we
this
have to have
over.
engineering done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Engineering
that's right. We
could
just
be-
start on it. If we're finished, great, and we move on to the next section. And if not, we continue it on the next meeting.
Yeah, and I would recommend the committee even designate,
yeah, 'cause I'd
so
certainly
say
see
30
value.
minutes, we're gonna
I don't
devote
care
to
if we
this
even do
section.
it.
At
I
that
mean, I
next
do
meeting.
care if we do
Right.
it, but
Through
what
what
I'm
you can
saying
in
is,
30
I
minutes,
think
then
we're
after that-
we're a lot, and I didn't have time.
That way
Well,
you're
I
being
do.
respectful of your time too, and
Well,
your
that's
business.
80 by 80. I need to know where this is.
Yeah.
So I went to the website instead.
Okay, so Dale sounds like he has a motion. Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll have to have the verbiage ready, right? So I'm gonna motion that we review the bike-friendly community, what are the application in future meetings. I don't know, to analyze it, or I don't know how to do it. To understand it,
Better understand it, or,
learn from it, or?
yeah,
They've created a good tool.
absolutely. Okay, so Dale's motion is to review the bicycle-friendly community application in future meetings to better understand it.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Kyle. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So we
So
will
at least
start
that way
working
it's
on it.
on the agenda.
Yep, and then I will reach out to Stephanie and Natalie and see if they would be willing to come and talk to us about
Yeah, I love it.
what the process is like and all that stuff.
That'll be our education portion.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's our
that'll give us
education
a good
portion.
insight.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right, next agenda item is Holmgren Way corridor study, Lombardi to Cormier.
No major updates, just a reminder that the village board did approve the corridor study last year. I did forward that information on Nicole. Cole, I think he described at one of our meetings last year that he would start to tackle this study at some point in the summer or fall of next year based on his availability with other work that his department is doing. So he's got it on his radar, and it'll be a matter of when he finishes up some of his later or early work in 2023.
Do you know, Joe, coming in, maybe it's too early for him to figure that out. Is he gonna have like a subcommittee or some committee that will work with him or be like meet monthly or whatever the case may be on the study? Has he said anything?
He hasn't said anything directly. I guess my thought to that would be that's kind of this committee's role at that point. Clearly, staff will be working with him to gather data and information and do that collection, but then after that, bringing back kind of recommendations, findings, discussion points that would come back to this group as a collective body.
Okay, so he maybe wouldn't have like a subcommittee that maybe one or two people from this committee would be on. You're saying this committee would serve maybe as that subcommittee? Okay. Okay, so keep that in mind, you guys, as it moves forward. I like that. All right, anything else on that, Joe?
Nope.
Nope. All right, The night had a short educational video that I thought was kind of good. It talks about speed basically and the importance of people slowing down for motor vehicle safety, bicycle safety, and pedestrian. And it's from, the heck is it from?
It's not from TikTok though.
It's from the league.
It's a league, yeah, sorry, the league, yeah. So I just thought it was kind of interesting. There you go.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet, yes, yes. I don't know if those pictures are coming through, Haley. Okay, I had sent Haley a couple pictures that aren't going through for some reason, but just a couple other quick things. Hy-Vee is open, as you all know, and as part of the development for Hy-Vee, they have a bike rack in the front by the main doors. It's on the north side of the main door, and they had put a pallet right up against the bike rack, so it took out 2 spaces on the bike rack that weren't available. They did move that pallet away, so the bike rack is open. I swung by today on the way in, and there's actually a bicycle in it today. So they did move that over. The other thing with the development, and Aaron's been working with them on this, part of their development was they were supposed to put speed humps in that drive that goes right by the front entrance. Those were not installed. So Aaron asked them at least to sign that area. It's kind of funny because the signs they have there say stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. We're not a stop state, so they had the wrong one, maybe because they're an out-of-state company, and they don't have any crosswalks marked. So the signs are kind of funny. I mean, they did put them there and they're good, but they really don't say that much. So, but at least there's something there. So in the spring, my understanding from Aaron is they will be coming in and putting the speed humps in and then putting the crosswalks across them so people can safely cross, because if you've been there at all, it's very chaotic in that front area there. And you have those nice walkways coming up to that roadway crossing the front, and then there's nothing marked to safely get people across and to slow the motor vehicle drivers while they're going through there. So, and like I said, that's something I know Aaron's been working on, and it'll get done in the spring, but I was glad to see they moved the pallet away from the bike rack.
Somebody wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Those crosswalks at Walmart seem to work well. They're wide. There's no
speed humps.
Speed humps. It's so obvious.
Big, yeah.
Yeah, there's signs and it's so wide and there's lines. If you can't see that, but there's a lot of traffic too, so there's always people back and forth, so you gotta look out.
Yeah, and there's a ton of traffic there too, so it would be nice if they
sure.
get those in.
In the plaza with Experience Fitness and Fresh Time Market, they have stop signs right in the middle.
Yeah, which is good too. I mean, they could have stop signs there too in the meantime, at least. Maybe that would help slow people down a little bit, but
Yeah, because they seem very customer friendly, so
They
I would
do,
think they'd
absolutely.
certainly be willing to.
yeah, I think, you just can't get paid, can't get any pavement this time of year, so they just can't do it. I think it's just forgotten.
Yeah.
Yes, they did the building, so. Our next bike and ped meeting is February 13th. We'll have on there this application. We'll go through that. I'll talk to Natalie and staff and see if they can come. The other thing I was wondering if we could put on there, I don't know if you all know the Capital Credit Union building, which is on Ridge. It's on the corner of Ridge and West Main, pretty much. It's that big black building that sits on top of the hill. It's got the red
Like the
lights
slide
along the top.
inside the building.
Yep, yeah.
Yep.
They are redeveloping the third and fourth story of that building into a YMCA. It will be an adult-only YMCA.
Really?
And the I just wanted to talk about that area in regard to bike and ped access, because West Main is very narrow, lots of traffic. It's not easy to get there. We've got the trail that was just put in last year that goes up to Ridge, and there's a controlled intersection there. Unfortunately, there's no button for anybody to push to get through that intersection. So I just wanted to put that on the agenda and just talk about it a little bit, because there's gonna be a lot more people, I think, moving in that area, that whole subdivision, that's Sand Acres area. Really less than a quarter mile from that new place, and they'll probably be coming that way, and it's not easy to get there by foot or by bike, because there's no sidewalk. There's nothing, just to kind of look at it and see what's out there, but. And they're closing the one on Comanche. The Bellin site is going to be closed, and that's why a lot of people are looking for somewhere else to go to, and that's one of the sites, a lot of them.
And that's a good idea to look at that, because I go to the Bellin one and everybody's talking about going to the main when it opens, so Main Street.
Yes, I think it's
So you're
gonna
gonna
be
have a lot more traffic there.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot more traffic, and
It's gonna be interesting.
Brian's got it pulled up, but
Yeah.
The
there's
hill
no
is what
sidewalk.
concerns me.
Right.
It's a terrible hill.
You're right.
That is,
Did something in the cemetery, it's hard to blow. It's
Yeah.
hard to blow.
and it's
Yeah.
busy there.
It
It really
is
is a
busy.
busy road.
So we
I used to like
talked
that.
about
I
that
haven't biked that in
stretch.
years.
We talked about that stretch for a while.
Yeah.
Just with the availability of the TIF money and wanting to close out to work. That's why this section that was done was only done from Sand Acres Drive to Ridge. We ain't going farther. So we're still looking at that as the village, and I don't want to, I mean, if you want to take it, go ahead, but I'm just going to say, in fact, I know Aaron was trying to look at, there's a big grant that's out there right now, but we're thinking about maybe even trying to apply for, because we really can't use TID anymore because of when TID's got closed. So unfortunately, that was a $5 million minimum dollar amount, and while this is going to be expensive, I don't think it's going to be that expensive. So funding is still going to be the challenge. What would work in our favor? I mean, you can either look at a trail or a sidewalk. The village, the trail would obviously match what we already have, but with a sidewalk, we could eliminate the need to build a pedestrian bridge over the creek, because you already have the current sidewalk on the bridge as it is. And granted, it's sidewalk curb roadway, so it's still close to the roadway, very close, but it would eliminate probably, we'll take a look at, it would probably eliminate $1.5 million by not having to build a bridge over that creekway if we went the sidewalk direction. So that's what probably we would be looking at. A sidewalk would also minimize the amount of utility relocations, and probably, because the whole south side of the street is fiber optic line, it also probably would help eliminate the amount of fiber optic that would need to be moved. The biggest cost challenge on anything on West Main is going to be the utility relocation. That costs more than the trail itself for the section that we already did.
How much room is there between the sidewalk and the actual street?
It can be anything depending upon where it needs to be. In terms of in the right of way is the challenge.
Okay.
There needs to be a retaining wall built in front of that smaller house, that house that's up on the hill type of thing.
Yep.
So you'd have to dig in, and unfortunately, when they bury utility lines, they just bury it 2 feet down. So that whole stretch needs to be removed and then buried down where you would have the sidewalk. You know what I mean? So there would still need to be a fair amount of utility relocation. So even though it's a shorter stretch now, it's going to be a high dollar project no matter what, whether we do a trail or a sidewalk.
Well, my thinking is because to your point, the money spent on a bridge versus a sidewalk, but is there still a way of putting some type of a nice looking wall between the sidewalk and the road so that if a car was distracted?
Because you can't have a wall in the right of way like that.
You can't, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Being a county highway, the county would never.
Wouldn't do it. All right.
They would never. I don't, never say never, but I don't see that.
Yeah.
You don't see that anywhere. For
No.
a reason.
I mean, it's great. You can get there by the industrial park trail. You can get there Packerland and West Main. There's lots of great trail access to this point, but there's a block that and I even tried to sneak around and go south on Ridge a little bit and see if I can cut through that business on the corner.
Right.
But there is such a grade differential between that business parking lot and the Capital Credit Union that you couldn't get through there. And I'm sure that business is not going to want anybody coming through there, but that's what's going to happen though. I think people will cut through that business because on a bike or a pedestrian, you can just walk back further and the grade gets narrower and narrower as you get further south. So you could just wheel up and get to the parking lot at Capital Credit Union or walk through there. But it's unfortunate, and I know the cost of that and all the right of way and all that stuff is a problem. And it's great that it's to Ridge because that's a big piece too, because people now can safely get to Ridge and are off of West Main.
Right.
But it's unfortunate that we don't have a push button there at all because nobody can activate those lights there, and that it ends there.
How much parking is actually there at that building?
There's not a lot. There's not a lot. They're gonna have
That's
issues
exactly
with that.
right.
Yep, and I talked to Aaron about it because they're reusing an existing building. If there's anything that the village can do about it, and he was checking into it, but I haven't heard, what there is. But there is not a lot of parking, and they don't have a bike rack and nothing, So, I think it's gonna be busy back there, and people are and there's nowhere else to park really. You can't park on West Main.
No.
You could go into the Sand Acres subdivision and park back in there probably, and then walk
There's
up.
no space
Because
behind
I
the
was
building.
thinking of
Pardon?
parking
There's
there.
no space behind the building. for-
There's some,
But now
There's
I
some,
didn't
a little bit.
realize
There's a little
that.
bit, but not. If you have a full boat of people coming in, we got 30, 40 people coming in for a class, which is what they have it now. And you're gonna have every parking space.
Yeah.
People.
I always cross that bike. It's interesting because I don't.
And they have a bunch of green space, I think,
Yeah.
behind it that they could
Yeah.
potentially
Yeah, so
expand the parking lot.
I know, right?
But it sounds like there
Is
is.
that owned by the Van family, the green space?
I
No,
feel like
they
this
own
is part
about
of
an
theirs,
acre.
isn't it?
Yeah, they own about an acre behind their existing parking lot.
So they could expand it, but I don't know if they're talking about that or anything. Aaron was gonna check with the Y, I think, or Capital Credit, one of the two, and see where they were at with all of that and see what was up, but.
The first time they have a
I think they need it for
fitness, the first time they have a
rehab
fitness
for hips
class,
and knees.
every
They're gonna
spot is taken
expand
and
the
no one can
rehab
park anywhere.
center in that Comanche area.
Yeah.
Customers so they can be.
Yeah, that's gonna be an issue.
So what happens when you join vendors?
Yeah.
Like that's what's supposed to be.
There wouldn't
Yeah.
help besides the class.
They've been
So-
rumoring
So
for
they
quite a
go by
while.
the
because
time
It is.
Yeah.
A lot of people are very sad.
Yeah, because this one.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for the next agenda that anybody has? Otherwise, February 13th, and I would welcome that a motion to adjourn. I guess I can.
Let me get
Second,
my in.
Linda. All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
I know, right?
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you guys, and that was a long meeting.